Hotep Senuhena Senut Tiren Ishakanuku Kemeda. Hope you're doing well. Let me check the sound. A little bit loud. The title of this video is Afghanistan. Children as young as 9 years old sold by their own families. I'm going to share a link, and the website is Al Jazeera. I'm going to put it in the chat, and there you have it. This article is dated August 14, 2022. The author is Robin Huang. Herat, Afghanistan. The last time Alam Gul Jashidi saw her daughter was the night the 16-year-old was married off to a man more than twice her age. Aziz Gul looked radiant in a sequined white wedding dress and a bright yellow headscarf, but there was fear in her otherwise solemn expressions. If I go there, I'll be sacrificed. Her mother remembers her daughter pleading that night last October. Alamgul had a sinking feeling but convinced herself it was just nerves. Aziz Gul's marriage had been arranged 4 years prior, and now that the time had come, she knew it was her duty to encourage her daughter into a new family. In Afghan culture, once a female marries, she moves in with her in laws. Aziz Gul left her family's home in Gozargah, a suburb of Herat, and moved to her new husband Musa's home in Jawand, a rural district some 200 kilometers, which is 124 miles away, too far for her family to visit easily. 5 months later, the phone rang. It was Musa's father calling to tell Alam Gul that her daughter had been killed. Her naked body had been found in a forest just outside the village where she had lived with her in laws. Aziz Gul had been beaten and shot 4 times in the back. She was 17 years old and 4 months pregnant. Aziz Gul's family, ethnic Jamshidi Aimak, self described Tajik Arabs, are originally from Baghdad's province. They moved to Herat during the height of the conflict between the previous government and the Taliban, which retook control of the country after United States and NATO forces withdrew in August 2021. Before the family left, when Aziz Gul was just 12, her parents agreed to marry her to Musa when she turned 16, the minimum legal age for marriage in Afghanistan under the previous government. The Taliban has not mentioned whether that minimum age has changed. In exchange, her 26-year-old elder brother, Aminullah, will marry Musa's 18-year-old niece, Shakar. Alam Gul shows a photo of her daughter Aziz Gul on her wedding night last year. Across Afghanistan, it is common for children, particularly girls, to be married. Families arrange marriages to pay back personal debts, settle disputes, improve relations with rival families, or simply because they hope marriage will offer them protection from the worst extremes of economic hardships and social and political upheaval. Though child marriages is not thoroughly tracked in Afghanistan, with gaps in concrete, holistic data about the number of children affected, UNICEF has reported children being sold as young as 20 days old for future marriage, with girls disproportionately affected. Now, amid spiraling poverty, and the difficulty of finding sustainable jobs, only 5% of Afghan families have enough to eat daily, and inflation for essential household goods is at 40%. Even more families are struggling. Many are making desperate decisions to survive, including selling their children, specifically young daughters, into marriage or arranging their marriages in order to receive a dowry or mahr. The dowry paid by the groom to the bride's family is a traditional practice in all marriages in Afghanistan, but more families are now seeking this to help them survive difficult financial times. Alam Gul had three sons and four daughters. Aziz Gul was her second eldest daughter. She was always close to her mother and would typically speak to, or at least message, one of her family members every day. The day after she was killed in March, her in laws told her parents that she had run away after they were concerned when she did not return their calls. 2 days later, a local farmer discovered her dead body in the forest and alerted local authorities in Jawand, who began an investigation. That same day, after villagers started talking about the incident, Musa's father admitted to her family that she had been killed. Soon after, Aziz Gul's grief-stricken parents embarked on a several-day journey to Jawan to bring her body back to Herat. We collected her body from local authorities about 3 days before the month of Ramadan, Alam Gul says in tears. The killer just threw her body outside in the forest as if she were not a human being. I wonder how scared she was. Musa and some of his relatives quickly pinned the murder on his mother, Aziz Gul's mother-in-law. They claimed that she was frustrated at her daughter-in-law for not knowing how to do housework, started beating her, and shot her in rage. But Aziz Gul's parents suspect it was Musa. During the months the two were married, Aziz Gul and other relatives discovered that he was an opium user who would easily fall into fits of rage. Aziz Gul's father, Kaja Abdul Ghaffar Jamshidi, says they received investigation reports from the local Taliban police authorities in Jawan. Musa and six other known criminals were questioned, a few days after her body was found, but the authorities told Kaja Abdul there was not enough proof to make any arrests, and the killer's identity remains unknown. Eventually, the local Taliban chief in Jawan decided that this was an issue to be solved between the two families and told Kaja Abdul that the case was closed. But it was the family's word against Musa's. When Aziz Gul's family tried to appeal to the larger, more authoritative Taliban police authorities in Herat, the case was sent back to local officials in Jawand. According to Kaja Abdul, Musa was influential within the Jawand district. The region is considered lawless and not entirely under the control of the Taliban commanders in Kabul. Different factions operate in decentralized silos and do not necessarily communicate, follow the same rules, or want to intervene in other jurisdictions. In Afghanistan, domestic violence cases rarely make it to the courts, including under the last government, and are often left unsettled. In the Jamshidi family's compact mud brick home in Gozalkar, Kaja Abdul sits on the floor with his legs slightly crossed and his hands clasped. We want fairness from the Taliban, but whatever is set out in the Sharia, we will accept this as justice, he says, when he wants to find the killer. He has also offered to kill his daughter's murderers if Islamic courts decide that the blood punishment is in order, even though for now they are at loss as the local police authorities have deemed the case to be closed. Sitting hunched over near her husband, dressed in black with a dark green hijab loosely wrapped around her head, Alam Gul is visibly distressed. Her hands shake as she clutches a mobile phone with a picture of her deceased daughter. Tears stream down her face as she recalled the last time they spoke. I spoke to her 4 days before she died. There were obvious issues with her new family, but she didn't go into full details about what. Aziz Gul was bright and outgoing, her mother reflects. She studied at a madrasa for girls. She was also interested in becoming a police officer. The hardest thing for her about the idea of marriage was leaving school. She loved studying. Adam Gul, never went to, I'm sorry, Adam Gul, who never went to school, says, reflecting on the idea that her daughter could live another life. I wish she could live in a world different from the one I know. It is difficult here in Afghanistan. The family also needed Aziz Gul's dowry of $3,500 to survive. Since moving to Herat, the men in the Jamshidi family have been working in construction, but the work has not been consistent, and they have faced mounting economic hardships. Adam Gul looks at her remaining teenage daughters sitting next to her in a small home and sighs heavily. Two of Aziz Gul's sisters start crying when they pass around photos of her. When asked about their future, she is fearful. In their economic situation, she knows they will have to continue marrying off their daughters, but the idea of another loss is terrifying. I'm worried about my daughters, and I'm scared about losing others. The experience of burying a daughter is too much for any mother. In Afghanistan, women and girls have struggled for decades, with each change in government adding a new dimension to the challenges they face. During the last Taliban regime, women had little to no freedom. They were not allowed to work or go to school. Under the previous republic that took power in 2004, women were more visible in public life, but women's rights still wavered, especially in rural areas. Domestic violence was also often justified by conservative culture. Under the new Taliban run Afghanistan, new rules restricting freedoms around dress, education, the right to work, and freedom of movement continue to be enacted. Since the takeover last year, girls beyond the sixth grade have not been allowed to attend school. This is the age where girls historically are most vulnerable to being set up for marriage. Girls as young as 9 years old are being sold, and at least one or two women a day end their own lives in Afghanistan because of the current situation. Fauzia Kufi, the former deputy speaker of the Afghan parliament, told the United Nations last month. There are concerns that the Taliban does not appear to be focused on eradicating child marriage. Many Taliban fighters have taken child bribes for themselves. Taliban chief Aibatullah Akhundzada issued a decree barring forced marriage in December, but it did not mention a minimum age for marriage. And Sadiq Akif, the spokesperson for the Ministry of Promotion of Virtue and Prevention of Vice, was quoted earlier this year saying, when a girl reaches puberty, she can be given to marriage. Puberty in girls generally occurs between the ages of 8 and 13. While most countries consider 18 to be the age of maturity, many countries allow under 18s to marry in some or all circumstances. Child marriage has always existed in Afghanistan, but recent reports suggest an increase in child selling and marriages spurred by a deepening humanitarian crisis following the Taliban takeover. The country's aid dependent economy was already on edge when the Taliban seized power last August. Then the international community froze about $9 billion in Afghan assets overseas and halted all funding, reluctant to work with the Taliban government. The consequences have been devastating for a country for a country already battered by decades of war and poverty. Parents sometimes marry a daughter off because they cannot feed her, and they think it may be their only option to keep themselves and their other children alive. Experienced Heather Barr, Women's Rights Associate Director of Human Rights Watch. It's also unprecedented to have an entire country of girls shut out of high school. UNICEF found that the risk of child marriage is higher with the Taliban banning teenage girls from attending school. To address child marriage, there needs to be sustained, I'm sorry, there needs to be sustained urgent pressure from the international community on the Taliban to reopen schools. But beyond that, there There needs to be a system in place with the involvement of schools and different government agencies that educates the society about why child marriage is harmful, says Barr, as child brides continue to be victims of domestic violence, death by childbirth, and suicide. As the pain of Aziz Gul's tragic end lingers with her family in Gozalgar at the camp for internationally at the camp for internally displaced people just 10 kilometers, 6 miles away, another mother and daughter face a desperate decision. 10-year-old Rahiana Mizrahi stares timidly from behind her mother Shaima, her wide, almond shaped eyes glistening in the sunlight pouring into their small, dusty home outside Herat. She is wearing a sparkling yellow dress and a loose fitting light violet hijab, bright red lipstick, rouge, and bangles. Raihana is dressed up for one reason only. She is engaged to be married to her 20-year-old cousin. It's tradition, it's tradition to stay dressed up so that others will know that she is engaged, Shaima says. Still, Shaima did not want to marry Raihana off so early. The arrangement is to help her older brother, my bad, Mansour. She was promised to their relatives after Mansour had a near fatal accident a year prior and they helped pay off his hospital debts. The timeline for the marriage is unclear as the fiance she has never met is working in Iran. Raihana has a bright personality. The little girl's eyes perk up when asked about her aspirations. I like solving problems, so I want to become a doctor. Shaima says she will have to stop going to school when she is married, as it is tradition for girls to focus on building their families instead. Rayhana understands her situation for the most part, and her dreams of becoming a doctor fade away. It's not important that I'm happy or not. It is my family's decision, and I want to help my brother, she says. Even as she holds a fussy newborn, Shaima stares at her second eldest daughter in silence, her eyebrows furrow as she glances between Rahiana and Mansour. Mansour sits sullenly next to his little sister with his head hung low. The country's economic situation has exacerbated the number of families pushing their children to work. In May 2021, 13-year-old Mansour collected garbage to earn money for the family. He was clinging onto the side of the garbage truck when he turned into a bumpy road. He lost his grip, fell onto the road, and was struck by an oncoming motorcycle. Doctors in Herat were able to revive him, but he lost his eyesight and some brain functionality. The young teenager once had a stunning once had stunning green eyes, but his left eye is now glazed over. At the time of the accident, the family barely made ends meet and did not have the money to pay for Mansour's surgery and continued treatment. Mansour was one of the family's primary breadwinners, collecting rubbish for 100 Afghanis, about $1 daily. So it's been 20 minutes, so I'm not going to read the whole thing. I've shared the link already. And I see that we have some comment. We have our brother Netanyahu who has actually subscribed. Thank you for that. I appreciate that, brother. Do us an E. Now, you see the message which says that he is a new member. He wrote, Peace King, good show. This is a tradition of selling children which was birthed in Mesopotamia. This is a old horrible tradition of these people. Blacks in the Sudan also have adopted this Islamic tradition by selling black children. Yes, child marriage is legal, a tradition derived from Mesopotamia. But in Africa as well, they do practice that. I'm just going to get something to drink. I'll be right back. And as I leave, I'm going to play this here.
So Shabazz was not permitted to stay in that area, so he took his family into the jungle of East Asia, which we now call Africa, to make a people close to nature. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, this is the origin of kinky hair, because we didn't have kinky hair prior to that. The hair on our head was like the hair on our eyebrows. The hair on your eyebrows straight, the hair on your head is not the same as the hair on your eyebrow. But the hair of every other people is the same as their eyebrow. Your eyebrow straight, your hair something different. Wouldn't you like the hair on your head to be as straight as the hair on your eyebrow? That's why you so busy frying it. That's why you so busy pulling it. Because your nature tells you that the kink I mean, you know, with I'm black and I'm proud, we got to learn to be proud of kinks. Because most of your family of other black people on the earth, jet black. They didn't have no broad nose and thick lips and kinky hair. They were dark-skinned people, jet black. But they had straight hair, a thinner lip, a thinner nose. But we are marked as a different kind of black person. And we were rejected and despised, not only from the circle of the gods, but we were despised and rejected by all the other dark people of the earth. This is why today black people with kinky hair and broad nose and thick lips are rejected in every society. I want you to hear me well tonight. Yes, sir. Why are we rejected? Because the essence of beauty is in obedience and submission to God. And the essence of ugliness is when you rebel against God. And when you rebel against God, in your rebellion, you are marked with a certain mark of your rebellion, which is the disfigurement of your internal self, which manifests in the disfigurement of your external self. And this is why when you look at our people, wherever we are found on the earth, you find us either disfiguring ourselves physically because we are disfigured on the inside because of rebellion. Go ahead.
Now, Netanyahu wrote, Farrakhan is a god of pseudoism. Farrakhan was only breaking down the teaching of the Nation of Islam. He put his own twist on it, though. Well, I'm saying this, who knows? Who knows if Elijah Muhammad did not expound that much, but Elijah Muhammad was a bit more brief about this theology. I just want to verify because sometimes the mobile version is different than the website version. But just today, I've shared that link because some people were, uh, promoting a member of the organization. So I've shared the link. And what do I find out? Like, a few minutes later, my post was removed. People sweeping stuff under the rug. And on the website version is the same thing. And then people are going to act like, oh, I didn't know. Censoring Now, I want to show you something. That's my YouTube channel. If you go to community, you find the messages that I share. And here, well, the message had actually 3 likes. So you can see that was 1 day ago. And it says from now on, only members can post in the chat during live streams. It's just $3 per month. Here's the link to become a member. Now, I first had this comment, this long comment from Jafar, who used to be a regular participant during the live streams, and also on comments after the videos were uploaded. Is it loud enough? Yeah. So he wrote, "Damn, Shaka, people are poor. You're trying to squeeze more out of people like the government. You charge for your Metunetter classes, and if somebody wants membership, they will pay. But for a comment in your chat, $3? Wow, I didn't expect that from you. That's why a lot of our people will die in the future because of selfishness. Don't you think that the reason you might not get donations is because most of the people that watch you are poor, unlike other platforms? You might be watching and thinking, look at that donation. I want the same. Well, I'm poor, and if you're not making money, it is because your audience is poor as well. People with wealth in this society today just don't value your platform, unlike the poor. Sorry, it's just a fact. You are trying to get water out of a stone. And if I was rich, I would bless you with more money than people who say they got money. A lot of people type then THEN instead of THAN, but that's another discussion altogether. So, this is the reply that I wrote yesterday. Everybody will continue to get the knowledge free of charge. Participating in the chat is not mandatory nor a matter of life and death. Now, if someone can't afford $3 a month, he/she has no business hanging in chats in the first place. And then he replied, government business. Now, when I posted about Farrakhan getting millions of dollars and the Nation of Islam asking for $1,000 per household or per adults for different projects or events, I didn't hear our brother Jafar. But it's okay. What is sad is when people try to make you feel guilty. Sometimes people just don't value your work. It's not an obligation. People can call in. I'll share the link to the chat, like as you usually do. See? But I inform the people. So this is what we up here at the top, just so that they know. Only members can post comments in the chat. You don't have many channels where the chat messages appear systematically on the screen. I usually do that. And I think Jafar knows that. He knows that he can go to so many other channels and type, and most likely his messages will not be shared. They will not be read. That avoids me having to deal with trolls and spammers. So I don't think I deserve to be condemned for having made for having taken that decision. Trying to make me feel guilty will not work. So it's been 31 minutes. Thank you for listening, brothers and sisters. Stay safe, stay healthy. And if I'm allowed to by the nature, I would definitely holler back at you. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Tuaitu, Tuanicheru, Hotel.
Now, for the record, for those who don't know, I'm giving middle nature classes. And here, that's the flyer. Okay? So, those who are interested, feel free to holler at me. If you're not interested, it's cool. But I recommend that everybody who has not yet seen the video Kemet and Ma'at before Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, then watch it. It has about 300,000 views and really deserves to have a lot more.
I just want to let everyone know who's listening in now and who's going to listen to this stream in the future. I just had my first Meta Nature class by Brother Shaka today, and I've had other Meta Nature lessons by other teachers, and I can tell you right now, the brother is the best in the game. He is that was one of the best classes I've ever had ever. So if you're interested in learning the Meta Nature, if you're interested in getting the basics of it, Brother Shaka is an awesome teacher. Get with him, and it's extremely affordable. This brother is giving us his time and his skills, and he's basically giving it away. I mean, I just consider it a donation. You know what I'm saying? So if anybody's interested in learning the Meta Nature, get with this brother right here. He's an awesome, awesome, awesome teacher. And I'll end with that.
Hotep Senu, Hena Senut. This is Julie, also known as Servant of Yah, and I'm currently taking the Medu Neture classes with Brother Shaka, and it has been an amazing experience. Only 2 lessons so far, and I feel like I've been taking the classes for months, just with the how in depth he goes into the vocabulary words, the construction of the language, the grammar. It's been immeasurable, the experience. And one thing that comes across, hands down, is his extreme passion for teaching this to anyone who is willing to learn and has an interest in learning. So I highly suggest, if you are interested, even a minimal interest, that you subscribe to the classes with Brother Shaka. It's such a nominal amount for how much you get. I know, like, our last class was over 2.5 hours. It felt like 2 minutes, but because that's how involved you are in what he's teaching and how he teaches and how compassionate he is about what he teaches. Also with sharing materials free of charge, no question, no doubt. It's just what he does. He doesn't have to, but he does. And so I just wanted to give a short testimonial about the class and the effectiveness of the class, and all of that is attested to how studied Brother Shaka is. So I highly recommend anyone with a minimal interest that you do sign up for the Medu Neture class. Hotep.
Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, which is Ma'at Forever. Don't forget to watch the video entitled Kemet and Ma'at. Don't forget to share Kemet and Ma'at or my channel on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, or other social media that you use. Email, text messages, you name it. Those who wish to donate can do so on paypal.me/maatforever.